Hello, everybody. Welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around fantasy Premier League. My name's Suj.
And my name is James.
Welcome back from the north of England, James. Geordie land, good trip up? Enjoyable weekend?
Yeah, very enjoyable. I'd love it up in Newcastle.
Football
Great
aside,
place.
I'm asking obviously as a journey and a trip.
To be honest, even the football, it was just unlucky, right? So I think we played okay. We just landed on the wrong side of it. So yeah, good weekend. Managed to get home. Even got a seat on the train. That's a miracle to save for Patreon content later in this week. Yeah, good trip, good weekend. All right.
I always feel for you when you have these long trips and
I have a
you
choice.
lose.
I have a choice.
Yeah, I know. And it's like it is a choice and you make it, but then do I need to like stage an intervention and help you make better life choices, But I think as you get older, you're less likely to want to do it, maybe.
No, I'm getting worse.
Nah? Do you think so?
Yeah, getting worse. Yeah.
It's funny. We had a company that wanted to sponsor the pod, and listen, therapy and talking to people is not a joking matter, but it was a company that offer online support. I was like, James might need help talking to somebody about his addiction to wanting to go to away games to constantly watch Spurs lose, because it can't be good for your mental health. But yeah, I'm not making light of therapy or a joke, but it's like, oh, good. Do you know what? If they've got a free trial in there, I might speak to James about this need to want to travel the country and for his football team to cause him pain. But like you said, if you can enjoy the performance and the process and what it is, you can't control the outcome.
Yeah, if we played completely crap and got beat, and listen, I went up there and we got beat 4-0 in April, that was like, oh,
yeah,
what have I done?
Awful.
Yeah, yesterday wasn't like that.
Nah, good. And you managed to have the night out before as well and enjoy Newcastle as opposed to in and out. And when you have in and out days where it's like 3 hours travel each way for 90 minutes of football, it makes it feel so much worse. But good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. We should start with wildcard because you pulled it in Gameweek 3, which is not normally your strategy. You're more of a slow tortoise rather than hare when it comes to pulling the wildcard. How do you feel coming out of Gameweek 3 and having used wildcard?
Pretty good, because I feel like I've survived again. To go no Haaland, no Salah, I know that there's plenty of people with 51 points and don't feel like from those two and feel like I'm not miles behind everyone. The sort of one you'd almost season defining, like I didn't have Haaland and Salah when they both got 17 points for a combined 51 if you captain. I kind of feel like I've survived.
I don't know how many people have both.
It's about quarter at the moment.
Right, okay.
Of the overall game.
Yeah, I mean, you say you've survived. I think it's really interesting because there's plenty of people with Haaland, me being one who've triple captained and captained. And you look at those points and you lick your lips, right? You're thinking, oh, the guy's worth over 92 points for me in 3 game weeks with all the captaincies. Yet at the same time, there are plenty of people without him that have kept pace. There are plenty of people that have him that have gone a little bit further ahead. I don't think there is actually any right or wrong this season, even though it might feel like it because he's gone off so big. And I guess that's because Salah has also gone off big. Cole Palmer's done particularly well. There's other players that have done well. Now, I look at the first 3 weeks. I don't remember a season where the average for the first 3 weeks is 57, 69, 67. Like, those are very high averages for this early in the season.
Yeah, it's absolutely matter of fact. I'll shout out to give you some context behind that. One of our patrons, Andrew Sanj, tracks year-on-year scores. So just to give you an indication, from the first 3 game weeks last year to be in the top 10K, you'd need 211 points. This year it's 266.
Wow, 50 points difference.
55.
Wow.
So a different one for you. If you top 500K, 184 points last year, 234 this year. It's exactly 50 points. Top million, 177 after 3 game weeks last year. This year, 226. It's a difference of 49.
226 points to be in the top million after 3 game weeks.
That's insane.
70 something
75 average
game week. I mean, we'll talk about my team in a minute, but I got a red arrow of 77 points this week. And it's not like I'm in the millions, I'm 450k, give or take. A red arrow. I was blown away with that. I was like, wow, 77 points is a red arrow. What is this game? So talk us through your team. Any decisions, regrets, or
Yeah, not
things that
having
you're particularly
Haaland.
happy with?
I wouldn't call it a regret.
A regret
It's
is
a chosen strategy, and
correct.
I'm not gonna tear it up and -8 to get him back in. Like I'm not. Part of my strategy was okay. Let's make a decision for a period here. Potentially work Haaland back in between game week 7 and 9. There was no guarantee I'd do that. I mean, what I would say is he looks, and the same goes for Mo at the moment. And maybe there's something in the psyche here where they've had the summer off, and we should maybe have paid more attention to that for people like me. Maybe they both look lean as hell and
Bang on it.
absolutely on it.
Bang on it.
I mean, Haaland for a lot of last season, I think looked quite sluggish,
Mm.
like he doesn't now. And when he
No,
gets
there
in
was,
position, you just
yeah.
think again like now, like his confidence is soaring. You feel like he's going to score when he goes through for the chance in the second half for the hat trick. Is there anybody who didn't think he was going to score?
No, not in the slightest. And I know a lot of people have said he's outperforming his XG, but then I think the guys in above average mentioned every hat trick throughout history is always outperforming its XG. So you could consider him lucky with the goals he scored, but also he should have scored with the header that he had free before he even got on
Yeah.
the score sheet. He had other chances in all of these games where he could have bagged 4s and 5s. The way he hit that second shot, it's against my team, but though I love those goals because it's just such a clean power. There was nobody in the world that was going to stop it. And if he did get your hand to it, he probably would have broken Areola's hand just the way he hit it.
He
He
scored
is bang on it.
three different
Bang on
finishes.
it.
One, he's give the eyes and he's opened his body up and rolls it in the corner. Very similar to the goal he scored against you in his debut a couple of years ago.
It was
actually.
exactly the only difference was that he came from further. Like
Yeah.
with that, De Bruyne hit the pass through from almost his own
So
half
then
from memory.
Areola thinks, I don't want to do that again. But then
I think that
Haaland
was against
closes.
Flappy though.
No. I mean this time. So then
Oh, okay, yeah.
Areola doesn't want to get done that way again. Haaland closes his foot for the second one and whips it. And then the third one, Flappy's thinking, well, he's done both. And
What are you gonna do?
he pulls out the thing. We don't see that finish from actually
No,
very
it
much. That's
just
in the locker as
confidence.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can
absolutely.
understand it being a regret, but like you said, there's other players in your team that have performed and helped you keep pace. I would say.
Yeah, it's interesting. I said this before the weekend. I said, even though I'm wildcarding, it's highly likely I will have a red arrow, partly because of the rank of where I was. My rank absolutely yo-yoed wildly this week. So it started at 122k. After the 3 PMs, I was about 25k. After the City game, I dropped back to outside a million just off the City game. Then after the 130 games, I was back up to about 250k, 300k, and then landed after the Liverpool game yesterday, 525k.
Similar to me. The only difference after the City game, I was up to 111 because of the Haaland hat trick. 111, 105, something just outside the top 100, and then dropped to 250 after the 130s, and 490 now I am after the Liverpool game because of the Liverpool defensive coverage and Mo Salah more than anything else.
So I've got 66 for the week. I'm pretty happy with the decision I come to. Conclusion wise, it was basically the team I'd sort of settled on around about Wednesday. I did make one late change on the Friday because the price changed on Friday night. Didn't go the way I'd hoped. So I went with Raya in goal and I went with Flappy. One of our patrons said that I manifested that change because Areola he's strange, isn't he? He does pick up little things, doesn't he? Apparently, he's a back problem.
Yeah, I think he hit the post making a save in
The
the
De
first
Bruyne
half.
save.
Yeah,
What an effort.
what a save as well. I
Yeah.
don't think the saves like it was behind him. Like that was a save and a half, but also what a strike. But I think he hit the post 50-50 if he's going to be all right. I think we'll know within a couple of days. But Flappy does then put his hand up as a 4 million keeper of choice.
He's in. Trent and Robertson. So I went double Liverpool defense. I went Pedro Porro. I went Nedeljkovic and Fass as two 4.0s at the back. I did start Porro and the two Liverpool guys, obviously. Cole Palmer, I went captain this week. Jota went in, was a given. I went Saka, I went Bumo. Watkins, Isak, and Muniz up front, as Rogers as eighth attacker sitting on the bench. So Bumo and Isak, those 23 points, the two players that easily could have gone without me, has kind of saved the week a little bit. On captaincy, I've just had an assist each week from my three captains. That's it. So this is where I totally get the Haaland and Salah debate, and having these guys is, it's no guarantee. Of course it's not, but that security. And I have myself often found that when there's been a clear regular captain like a Haaland or Salah that mad year sort of 3 years or so ago, like just having that one captain saves a choice and a decision. So like going into game week 4 now, that's wide open for me in terms of our cap. I'm probably going to go Watkins, I think. Who hasn't scored yet?
No. And Everton are in all sorts of trouble. For me, the home fixture against Brentford for Haaland, I can't go against it. It's a home fixture. It's at the Etihad. He's in the form of his life. Back off the back of an international break. Yeah, I'm going Haaland again, but I get that point definitely. Good. I like your Liverpool double defence.
Most else who are without Haaland are going to captain Mo, because he's got a great fixture in game week 4 as well at home to Forest. It'd probably be Jota or Watkins for me. Jota was the quietest of Liverpool's attackers yesterday, which he wasn't in the first two. We'll probably come back onto that. I'm all right. I'm content. I feel like I've got a team that's consistent. I picked a team ideally that's going to roll till game week 6. Add a third Arsenal player. It's like looking at what I would need to do to tear my team up to get Haaland in, right? Probably sell Raya and Saka and Watkins, and it's -8.
Yep.
And then what? I'm going into game week 6 with like no Arsenal. So part of getting Bumo was to set for that. Probably going to play Rogers over Bumo this week, with Bumo going to City and Rogers having Everton at home. So I'm content. I've picked a strategy. It's not time to tear it up. It's not to say that I'm right and others are wrong. I think clearly I should have Haaland in there because of what he's done. If you said, oh, he's getting back-to-back hat-tricks, like, of course, he's going in definitively. Yep. You look at the next fixture and you think, yep, clear best captaincy again. I'm not
the thing is,
you've
got to weigh up what's the trade-off and what points are you giving up to get Haaland's points at the end of the day. I think I haven't completely ruled out a international break wild card yet. I haven't seen too many price swings crazy yet, so I'm comfy enough not pulling the trigger. But there are a few things in my team that I'd like to change. Having said that, like obviously Murphy and Hall getting benched. Murphy did pick up the assist in the end for the winner. But I ended up on 77 points this week, James, which I'm super happy about, because I was going into this week really nervous, and I ended up making one transfer, and that was Nkunku to Mbomo. I looked at your team news stream on Friday, which is a show that James does for the patrons. It's one of my favorites because it just wraps up all of the press conferences and what's going to happen for the weekend, and I can use that to make my decisions. I couldn't stomach a second loss in value on Nkunku. Just couldn't do it. I just like, this is too much, really. If he was gonna stay at 6.4, I might have ridden it out. But the second price drop that was incoming was like, forget about it. And I had money in the bank from when I'd sold Solanke to Muniz the previous week, and so I was like 7.8 million in the bank. So I just filtered through. I was like, okay, the two choices on the table were Eze and Mbomo. And Mbomo had the better fixture for that week. So literally just went with... Mbomo could do enough damage against Southampton that could justify taking a hit the week after, and still I'd be up on points to move on if he did. And he ended up with a 14-pointer. Like, I'm obviously over the moon with that outcome from Mbomo. And he's rotatable over the next 4 or 5. Like, I don't see any reason to want to move him on. And plus, the Ivan Toney news had broken as well, that he was going to Saudi, which made Mbomo even more of a surefire pick.
Because he's on penalties. How many penalties in the first 3 game weeks?
2.
Yeah,
2. So look, these things have a habit of swinging, and I think what will happen.
Bet you game week 4, I bet there's about 7 penalties.
What will happen over the next few weeks, because there's fixture swings like that as well, is There'll be weeks where Haaland Salah teams will do great, crazy well. There'll be weeks where non-Haaland Salah teams will do crazy well, and it will swing like this for quite some time. So there's just literally no point in celebrating or counting your chickens, because you're just taking it 1 week at a time, and it's only 3 weeks in. But 77 points for me, I'm super happy with. Leno is Mr. King of 3 points. If I get news that Areola is out this week, I've got Flappy versus Leno. They're playing each other. I think I'll play Flappy, you know. I think West Ham are more likely to keep it. I know, but I think we're more likely to keep a clean sheet than they are.
Mm.
It's not. It's a tight one. Like, look, I've just come off 3 Fulham away at Ipswich, and I've got 6 points off the bastards: Smith Rowe, Muniz, and Leno. I'm not happy with Fulham right now.
And well, I'm in a position where I've obviously got Raya and Flappy. I think I'd probably still pick Raya.
Oh, you've got to pick Raya. Yeah, you've got to pick Raya. No, you don't got to, but I would pick Raya. But I think we've shown that we can keep clean sheets again. We kept a clean sheet against Wolves and Bournemouth. Yeah, I think in those kind of games, we will have more possession. I think I'd play Flappy over Leno. Gabriel, Munoz, Pedro Porro, nothing. But there was only 1 clean sheet at the weekend, wasn't there, at Liverpool? There was no others, was there? So that is what it is. 2 of them. Yeah, exactly. That's why you've done well with the double Liverpool defence. And Mo Salah, Smith Rowe, Jota. So Saka's assist. He's missed the 6-pointer. If Leno's missed the 3-pointer, Saka's missed the 6-pointer so far this season. Haaland captain, nothing from Muniz and Isak. And Isak jumping into max bonus as well. That was nice to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's a theme, isn't it? Goal scorer, winning goal. It's probably going to be that quite regularly.
Yep.
It's just on Saka. You say what, six points per week? Is he? I mean, he's on more than that. Isn't he? You got 12.
Oh no, you got 12 in the first week. Sorry, yeah.
But listen, players at his bracket, if he got 6 every single week, you probably wouldn't want to captain him often.
It's 220 points in the season, mate.
It's loads. It's more than that, isn't it? Yeah,
30 times 6, 180 plus another 8, 640. Yeah,
it's
228.
about what you'd expect.
Which. Yeah. It's fine. It's the consistency that helps win this game. So I'm pretty happy. I've obviously used 1 transfer, so I've only got 1 going into the international break. There are things that I would like, right? Like I think Havertz is a really interesting one that I would swap Isak for Havertz. I want to get João Pedro in. I'd sell Murphy for Mitoma or even Minte, to be honest, to save a little bit of money. I want a Liverpool defensive player in there as well for their run that's really good right now. I want David Raya back in goal. I know they didn't keep a clean sheet at the weekend, but Declan Rice got a bit to answer for that. There are enough changes that I would want to make that would justify a wild card, but I haven't yet figured out if those changes will actually result in a lot more points. So I need to have a think about it.
Okie dokie.
Should we talk about some of these games?
Let's do that.
Talk about a little bit of football, and then we'll see where we get to. Obviously, it's international break, so no pressure on making decisions. We do obviously advise people to hold, because you don't know what's going to happen with injuries and while players are away and what have you. But yes, we'll rattle through these games. We might have time for a question or two at the end. Arsenal 1, Brighton 1. A game that feels like it was largely defined by Declan Rice's red card, because had he, the narrative will be, had he stayed on the pitch, would Brighton have gone on and equalised? Would Arsenal have been able to see it out? Because the goal did come after. But Arsenal, even after Brighton had equalised, did have chances to score, and Saka had a couple of them, and you're thinking, come on, man, fill your boots here. But this will end up being disappointing for Arsenal, because they were ahead. And Liverpool winning, Man City winning, you feel the pressure.
I think with 24% of the ball in the second half, Arsenal probably be like under circumstance accepting of the point that they got.
Because of the red card, though. Yeah,
of course. Yeah, listen, game circumstance changes how you feel sometimes. Sometimes things happen in the game, and this is a perfect example. Sometimes you just have to go take something today. And that's what they've done. And I think they deserve some credit for that as well, because Brighton are a good side based on what we've seen so far this season. Thoughts on the red card? Might as well just get that out of the way first.
No issue with the red card, because he's kicked the ball away and he knows what he's doing.
He does.
I don't know if he knows what he's doing. I also take on board the lack of consistency. I have more of an issue with the lack of consistency than I do with the red card. I'm fine with the red card, but yes, there needs to be more consistency.
Yeah, it's exactly that. That's where people's frustrations are, and I get that. But an experienced player like Declan Rice, I think, should know a little bit better than what he's
Yeah,
done there. And now,
definitely.
very importantly, he's going to miss the North London derby.
I
I
bet you
mean,
were smiling
I'm
ear to ear when you saw that
well,
kind of
literally, I'd
dawn
got on the
realised.
train to go to Newcastle, so I'd watched the first half on another train going into London. Got on the train. It's like, Dad, I got some bad news and some good news for you. What do you want? He'll give me the bad news. He's obviously expecting me to say like Arsenal 3-0 up. I was like, Brighton have scored and Declan Rice has been sent off. And it took him quite some time to trig that meant Declan Rice was going to miss the North London derby, which is an interesting aspect for game week 4, because you'd have to, what do they do with that position against an opponent like mine that can pin you back, as people have seen again yesterday? I guess that Havertz will play a deeper role.
That's what I would suggest is that Jesus comes in back up top, Havertz drops in back to
Well,
more of an
I
eight.
think, yeah, either Jesus if he's available, ideally, but it might even be that they'd go maybe Trossard even as the 9, or Trossard as the 8 with Havertz still as the 9.
Is
But
Jorginho not fit?
yeah, but
He's not
neither.
flagged. Would you drop Jorginho in and just play a double pivot with Partey and just
Yeah, but then
be
you've
more
changed the
defensively
structure.
minded?
You could do, and they may decide to do that. But I feel like it's been quite a while since we've seen Arsenal do that. And I think, in fairness, they did do that. I want to say in a game against Liverpool last year, and they won 3-1, where Declan Rice played really deep alongside Jorginho. So that might be the solution they go with, is to play Jorginho and
The
Partey together.
solution is to play
Might be.
Marino, isn't it? But Gabriel had different ideas
Well,
about that.
he's obviously injured as well, and it would be a
That would have
big
been a
game to
perfect replacement, right?
it would be a big game to bring someone into as well. Because what you got to think against my
Yes.
team is so much about off the ball. If you're in that midfield area, especially that left-sided one, because Porro just goes into those areas, someone's got to have their eye on it. So, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it will be that they'll change the structure of the team for the derby as a one-off. They may well do that. Another return for Havertz though, takes the goal really well. There's another one actually when Saka flicked him through. I think it was score here. And for Bruggen had committed just that he kind of had to, but he'd committed far enough that the right finish had to be to go over him, because it would be handball if he touched it. So Havertz got the finish absolutely spot on. Who knows what the returns may have been for a Saka on a different day. And I'm sure there's a few like me who have gone against Haaland. Salah would have captained Saka. Because he probably would have been my intention prior to Cole Palmer's performance against Wolves to captain Saka. Not that it would have made any difference. Obviously, look, it's the first goal they conceded this season. They're obviously very, very strong defensively. Who knows if they'd have stayed with 11 men? There's obviously every chance there'd have been another clean sheet here. I think you can already see in the markets that there are sales for Arsenal players happening, despite the good start. And it's fixture related, isn't it? And it's looking again, I haven't got Haaland or I haven't got Salah. Oh shit, look at the fixtures they've got next. Saka's got City and Tottenham away. Just remember game week 6 and 7 in a row. Arsenal got Leicester at home and Southampton at home. I do not want to be landing game week 6 with none of that. So my intention would be to carry Saka through. I play him against my team, because quite clearly players will still have opportunities against my team. Against City, there might be a debate based on what I see perhaps from Morgan Rogers in game week 4, because again, I'd probably want to play Bumo against Tottenham in game week 5 for similar reasons. So I intend to hold, and I probably would, yeah, even if I did think Flappy was going to play it for, I'd probably still play Raya against my team, because they're just capable of keeping a clean sheet in any game. The one that maybe there would be a debate is obviously the game week 5 fixture when they go to Manchester City. I know they kept 2 clean sheets against them last year, but you wouldn't expect it that much. That said, Flappy would have Chelsea at home. This doesn't overly appeal to me.
No.
So in terms of Arsenal now, it's for me, I think generally for most people, probably hold what you've got, because you probably will want it back. And at the moment, I'd probably favour the idea of going Havertz in game week 6 rather than a second defensive one. But that will be one of my intended moves probably in game week 6, is still an Arsenal player. And that might be the next move I make. For Brighton, big attention on João Pedro, fairly
Yeah,
understandably.
do you know what? I think I need to go with my natural instincts, James. Being a businessman, I need to think about money. And last week, when I chose Muniz over Pedro, I was trying to be choose Pedro because I was trying to think about the money, and I didn't go with my instincts. And over 2 weeks, that's probably the best part of what did Pedro score the previous week? It's probably cost me about 12 points, I think. 16, and Muniz is good for 4. So yeah, 12 points. But he's up to 5.7 now. He's creeping up slowly. It's still cheap, right? He's still the best in and around that value.
Muniz was the player on the wild card that was the least happy with. Obviously, João Pedro now up to 5.7, as is Danny Welbeck. And it's worth saying that it's small data sample, but Danny Welbeck's data is looking better than João Pedro's. And I think community based, everyone's buying João Pedro. On the wider, there's buys happening for Welbeck. I'm not seeing too many within the FPL community. It's not to say there's not, but not too many going for Welbeck. I think there's always a fear with him, isn't it? Or there'll be an injury. Plus, we don't really know what the impact of, say, when Evan Ferguson's up to true fitness, what that means.
Yep.
The reason I didn't want to go there was game weeks 4 and 5 look absolutely fantastic. And I would probably say that there's a group of people who are going to be wildcarding in game week 6 to get like your Arsenal back in and stuff. And therefore, Brighton is probably the team you want to attack most this week with Ipswich at home and Nottingham Forest at home, and understand that. Wait till you get after the international break would be the key pointer here. But I think João Pedro, Mitoma, Minter, all worth having a look. And people will even be looking defensively. Verbruggen will be first choice. Hertzler's confirmed that pre-game. And I thought he'd come straight in. So I know people have been looking at sort of like the Verbruggen Flecken rotation option. Verbruggen might get you something. Flecken probably won't at certain stages because he's liable to throw one in. Not that he had a chance for the goal at the weekend. Defensively, it's a little bit murky at the moment. Duncan Van Heck, very safe if you want to go down that route. And I think because of the fixtures, you'd probably go Dunk because of the bigger threat on set plays. It's been a weakness for Nottingham Forest, particularly over the last couple of seasons. Veltman got injured in the game, and Purvis Estupiñán was brought on.
Yep.
And they shoved obviously Hinshelwood to the other side. Now we don't quite know at this stage what the impact would be of the new boy Kadioglu. But I think Estupiñán might play the next couple of games, and it could be one for those who wildcard in game week 6 are like, oh, this is perfect.
I was very tempted to. I wanted to ask on Twitter, like, what do Brighton fans think of Estupiñán being fit and available? That was before the game, because I'd heard a rumor that he might be in the starting lineup. He wasn't, and has ended up coming on. Like for a 2-week punt. Like if I was wildcard, if I end up deciding to wildcard in game week 4, for those 2 fixtures specifically, with the view that maybe I can come off and go back to an Arsenal defender after them, I think I'd really fancy having a bit of fun and getting this Estupiñán. But it would be if I was wildcarding in game week 4. I don't think I'd be using my free transfer. I'd rather use my free transfer to get a Liverpool defender in, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah, but would you go like if you're going for 2 weeks, would you go for like Kanate if you're short of Liverpool players, or would you punt like an Estupiñán?
No, I'd punt Estupiñán. I'd rather, if I'm getting a Liverpool defender for long term, it would be like Trent, Robbo, or Van Dijk, like premium. But if Kanate, I don't see.
But the value's very different to Estupiñán, isn't it? That's why I use the Kanate
I think
comparison.
I'd go Estupiñán, to be honest with you. I'd have a bit of fun with it because the rest of my team is so template. Haaland, Saka, Jota, Isak. Like, you got to have 1 or 2 rogues in there. And I think Estupiñán could be that. If that injury hadn't happened, I'd feel less confident. But because of the injury, he's more likely to get back in.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a guaranteed start though, would it?
No, but it'd be funky.
It would be funky. The other thing to bear in mind, and forgive me because I hadn't checked, but see if he's in the Ecuador squad.
Right.
Because obviously internationals, right? The South Americans you want to be a little bit more cautious of. And if you are making early transfers this week, kids, probably do it for players who have not got internationals, particularly those with the lengthy internationals as well. Although I think the latest ones are overnight Tuesday into Wednesday morning for the South American players. The early kickoff in game week 4 is Southampton against Manchester United. Yeah, I think there'll be a lot looking at Brighton this week and understand that Mitoma's got the best of the expected goal involvement actually from the first 3. And I can even see those who might have had Bumo being tempted to do like a hokey cokey Mitoma for a couple, back to Boomer because Mitoma will almost certainly, I think, stay a differential. I don't think if there's people wildcarding now, I think they'd be more tempted to go with João Pedro and maybe even Minter. But Mitoma may still be the standout, but he's the most expensive.
This is it. This is the price. The reason I'm looking at Minte more than Mitoma, it very much I could do with that million elsewhere as a Haaland owner. Should we talk about Brentford 3, Southampton 1?
Yes.
And Bomo pops up with 2, Wissa with a goal. As like similar to what I said last week after the Liverpool game, I just felt without Sade in there and just a two-prong attack with Wissa and Mboma, it felt a little bit impotent, but chuck the third in there and they do really have opportunity to get at you. The way that they press and get the ball back is evident within the first goal from Bomo for sure. I think Brentford are really going to be interesting for the rest of the season. The players are priced well. I think it will be rotatable though. I think you'll have them in weeks where you'll be like, okay, this is a really good week to have them. And then there'll be other weeks where you're like, actually, yeah, I could just bench him. But I'm happy with Mbeumo in there, and I think he's just going to get more interest and go up in price.
Yeah, that run they've got from sort of 6 to 13 is great. And if I don't buy Kai Havertz in game week 6, it's either because I'm buying an Arsenal defensive player or because I'm buying João Vista to go with Bumo. It could well be the sort of thing that I'm looking at, actually.
Yeah, the City fixture this week, it is tough. I mean, Spurs, you know what you get with Spurs. You get chances.
Yeah, for defensive guys, it's still good.
It's still all right. So I think you could even say from game week 5, if you needed to go early for the value, just get it done.
Yeah, changed a little bit at the weekend. Sade coming back in, which is what I thought they would do, because I'd spoken last week about direct runners at Southampton, and that's exactly what Kevin Sade is. They played Vitaly Janelt at left back, brought Mikkel Damsgaard into the team, who I think he's still without a goal for Brentford. I think his last goal was for Denmark against England in Euros, remarkably.
Not this Euros, the last Euros,
yes,
just to be clear.
At Wembley, yes, that one. Christopher Jair went off injured in the first half. Mats Roslev went right back. Again, Rico Henry very close. I don't suppose he'd come back in for Manchester City away, but it also could be one that Frank would look at and go, well, what a test in terms of your fitness. Get him an hour at Man City, but he might do because it's a free swing, isn't it? There isn't expectation.
And he's down to 4.4 now. He's another one that if I was wildcarding, I'd be tempted to chuck him in for a view for 6 or 7, so I didn't have to make the transfer then. I've had Barco since game week 1, third on my bench, and I've never needed to use him. So if I was to gamble Henry on a wildcard and it goes wrong, just kind of. He's going to sit there third anyway.
He's not the Brentford defensive one you want. The one you'll want isn't even playing yet. It's Sepp Vandenberg when he gets in. Substitute appearance here, 4.0. A few have gambled that. Oh, this is what Tom Med was saying prior to the game week. Don't go there yet. There's every chance you'll be picking up in a few weeks at 3.9. And I think eventually you might get in that team over Nathan Collins, personally.
He's only 0.8% owned. Do you think he'd enough of a value drop?
Yeah, but because it's low, but also a few have invested, so they might have chucked him in on the wild card. I know there's a few people have done this, chucked him in on a wild card, hoping he's going to be the guy. And with the fixtures in the next couple, there's every chance he might come down to 3.9. Keep an eye on that on a regular, because I think once he goes in, that will be one that you'll go, oh my God, this is my way to an extra million in my budget, for example. Because with the fixtures they've got from sort of 6, if you look at the defensive aspect, you could probably stick him in for the majority of them, and it's not bad if he got in the team. I'm not suggesting anyone goes there now. Keep an eye. That's one that should be like permanently on a watch list at the moment, I think, because that would rule out the others. Then you wouldn't even want like your Fleckens and stuff like that, would you? I can totally understand why people are going with like this Flecken Verbruggen combination. I looked at doing it with like Pinnock and Dunk as well as a possibility that I considered. It does rotate really nicely. One of the reasons that I got put off by it was knowing that I would pick the Brentford player actually so much for me, wildcarding as I just have over, say, the next 10 to 12 game weeks. I probably only picked the Brighton player 3 times. So my viewpoint on that was, considering on what I went with defensively, let's keep an eye on this Van der Berg situation and come back to it if he suddenly got in the team. Don't be put off to not play Bumo at Manchester City. Like if you've got like weak on the bench, like oh, I don't want to play him just because it's City. Like play him. But if you've got something strong, of course, against an opponent like that, there is a case to say do it. I think after this week, though, yeah, if I could get very sick of Muniz quite quickly. It's not even beyond possibility that I went like Vissa for Muniz in 5 because I know then I'll be ahead of the curve in terms of people going for him. I think in game week 6, so I
Yep.
wouldn't rule that sort of thing out. It's definitely either of them are perfectly fine. The only thing I'd say on Vissa is like his goals numbers were really good at the end of last season and obviously good start to this season. But he now scored 2 really scrappy goals. Now you've got to be in the right place, but I don't know how many you're going to get of them. I still think Brumo would largely outperform him.
Southampton, 63% possession, story of the season for them so far.
Yeah,
And it's a late goal. So, again, it's not like that. Yeah, it's loads of possession, all fart, no poo.
they'll probably have more of the ball when they play Man United in Game Week 4 as well. I wouldn't be surprised
I think
if
they've had more of the ball in every single game so far.
yeah, like I think Bednarek might even be top for passes in the league. Maybe he certainly was going into this game week. But I know there was a big influence on that of obviously Newcastle's red card in game week 1. So
Mm.
I wonder if they might change the system now. The back three of what I watched at Newcastle game week 1 really worked against that sort of opponent. It hasn't so much. And the note that I think is important to people is the one that if they go to a back 4, it might be Harwood Bellis is the one that might come out. And I know that make a few people nervous. If you are going to invest in Southampton, look, there's Ipswich at home and Leicester at home in 5 and 8. I can see people looking at it from a rotation perspective. It's probably at this moment go with Bednarek, I think, rather than Harwood Bellis, because Harwood Bellis is the one that's being removed if they're changing the system later on.
But
And I've
it's
seen
just
a few.
better for 4.0s.
I get it. There's a few Southampton fans who've said that Harwood Bellis is the one that feels like he's not been quite at it so far this season.
Mm.
So just be aware of that. Those who've got Armstrong and Brereton Diaz are going to be strongly considering selling, despite the fact there's still some good fixtures to come. It's like how long, if you're an Armstrong owner, you're looking at Pedro and Welbeck and stuff as we've just covered. Like how long do you keep looking at that? It's going to be rough. And he came off at half time, Armstrong. So I think, unfortunately, probably if you're on Armstrong or Brereton Diaz, and I would have probably punted Brereton Diaz for a wild card in 2, I think you're looking at selling that. I think move it on.
Let's talk about Everton 2, Bournemouth 3, probably the game of the weekend, you'd have to say. Let's say the last 10 minutes of the weekend. I really felt like this was the redemption of Michael Keane when he'd scored, put Everton ahead. And you're like, right, okay, they're going to win a game of football here. By the end of it, it was definitely undone. That redemption lasted all of about 30 minutes. And to be honest, like watching the highlights, Bournemouth could have scored more at the end here. Like Everton capitulated. Pickford kept out a couple at the end as well. Like, yeah.
Yeah, they've ended up with 5 big
I'm
chances.
struggling with words here for Everton. Like, I've got friends that are Everton fans, and I just kind of like, I did say to one of my friends, like, thoughts and prayers, mate. And do you know what he replied? His reply to me was, Goodison is cursed, let it burn. So I think he just wants to get out of the stadium now. I don't know what it is, but yeah, that was awful.
That shouldn't happen. By the way, next time you watch Sinistera's goal, look at everyone behind the goal. Don't watch the goal. Look at everyone behind the goal. Nearly every single person stands up and starts heading for the exits. It's absolutely brilliant. You have to feel for them. I think it's really important to say this. Everton played well. That's everything that everybody is saying. Even Andoni Iriola said after the game, he said Everton deserved to win the football match. Now, there could have been a little bit of I feel a bit sorry for them there. It doesn't feel that way. It feels like that for 85 minutes of this game, Everton were the better side. And it was the sort of thing where they've got it right defensively. They've got a couple of goals. They've had other moments. Tarkovsky's hit the post at 2-0, for example. They deserve to win. That's how it sounds. And they were much better for having Iliman and Dyer in the team. He played towards the left, it looks like, with McNeil in more central areas, as per McNeil obviously threading Calvert-Lewin through for the second goal. And Dyer's the one that is going to give Everton fans real hope that they can hang their hat on and go, right, this is a flair player here who we like. I think he'll stay in the team. I think he's actually worth keeping an eye on for fantasy. Once you get the Villa fixture out of the way, I've actually got Everton top of my ticker, sort of between game weeks 5-10. I'm not suggesting people go there, but he might be a solution to look at. I think he's dropped to 5.4. I want to say
He is
such, right?
5.4. I had him as a potential off point for João Pedro. Should I go there for the two fixtures and then I decide I need to find a bit of money or I want to do something different? Like, I was really hopeful when I saw that he potentially could be starting. I was really hopeful that he would do well, but not too well because I don't want him to go back up in price. But at 5.4, I think he is really interesting. He's an easy off point for people to find money should they want to.
I think keep an eye on that. No one's saying go into Everton players at the moment, but obviously keep an eye on that. I think the key thing ahead of game week 4 will be what's happening with Brentford. Sean Dyche said prior to game week 1, he said that Brentford was still a fair bit away. And he still said that before game week 3 as well. That's the clincher for me. I think if he's not available in game week 4, I'll captain Watkins. I think if Brentford's got a chance, I'll probably look elsewhere because I think that will be transformative to them. It will really help them if they can put Brentford back in that team. It looks like when you look at the goals at the end, it looks like they run out of legs massively, and
They were knackered,
and there's something mentally happens there as well, where suddenly the first goal goes in, and it's like, and you can also see, by the way, when the first goal goes in, there's actually a couple of Everton fans actually walking out the ground leaving. I hope they know by this point that they've lost. It's the latest ever comeback from 2-0 down to win 3-2 in a Premier League game. And Bournemouth deserve mass credit for doing it. There's a few of their players that are quite interesting. I think it's probably a little bit of a wait for the moment. Like Chelsea at home next
I think
fine.
they are in a very overlooked unnecessarily state at the moment because it's 5 points now from the first 3.
Yeah.
It took them ages to get going at the end of last season. Not only 5 points from the first 3, they played my team in the cup last Wednesday, was it? And they were the better team. Definitely in the second half, they were much the better team. Like Sinistera was lively. He was one that I had the eye test. He definitely passed. I know he didn't start, did he, Sinistera?
No, came on, but he's worth keeping an eye on.
But
as
yeah,
well.
he looked really lively. Semenyo, that he scored in week 1, has scored again now. Looks interesting. They're doing well and they're playing well as well. But like you said, maybe now's not the right time. But I think they're getting overlooked unnecessarily.
I get it, but if you're looking to buy an attacker, do you buy, for example, do you buy Semenyo or like Minter this week? Maybe you're influenced to go to Semenyo this week. I'd look at the fixtures and go Chelsea at home, Liverpool away. Then they've got Southampton, Leicester, the same what Arsenal's got. Leicester game is away. So you think, I'll go and attack in 6. But the problem is after that, it's Arsenal at home, Villa away, City at home. So do you want to carry through those 3 as well? Then from game week 11, the run gets much better for them. So I think they're going to maintain a kind of watching brief for me at the moment. If I had to go in, without a doubt, it would be Semenyo at this moment in time. I really like him. He's got kind of a no backlift beauty in the way that he strikes a ball. I mean, that strike, the one he has from the edge of the area to control when he has to get his leg really high, where Pickford makes the save. He's got really nice technique about him. He's a good ball carrier. I think I said last week that with Solanke now gone, he might be the one that kind of picks up the mantle of I can carry this team. And at the moment, we'd have no idea really who Bournemouth's talisman would be because it might yet prove to be, say, Evan Nilsson up front. But it might prove to be Semenyo. And if you've got a talisman that sort of value, that should always remain close to your thoughts, I think. But generally speaking, they'll take a watching brief. They deserve credit for obviously what they've done and the pressure they put on in the final 10 minutes, included added time. But we'd also have question marks about why they struggled there so much for so long. They struggled at Goodison Park last year quite badly as well. I'm watching brief on Bournemouth at the moment. Everton, they certainly wouldn't be buying this week, but I think Ndye is worth keeping an eye on.
Ipswich 1, Fulham 1. James, disappointing for me this game particularly because I went in with triple Fulham thinking that they'd do well and they didn't. If you look at the stats, I mean, it comes off as a fairly Fairly even game in terms of XG. Fulham had edged it a little bit, but you're talking 49-51 on possession, 0.45, 0.95 on XG, 11 shots against 9 shots. It doesn't particularly feel like one of the teams completed 401 passes, the other completed 418. If you looked at this game on paper, it looks like a fairly even game, and 1-1 was probably a fair result.
Yep. Yep. Agree with that. I think the first takeaways from the fantasy perspective on Fulham. Muniz has had a decent chance again with a header in the first half and stuff. I am concerned that I keep saying it. I'm concerned that spell he had last year where he kept scoring that's all it'll ever be. I am concerned about. I like him as a player, but he was the player in my wildcard that was least comfortable with. The reason I chose him over Pedro, as I said previously, was if I got stuck, then he could carry me a lot longer. But I don't know how long I want to be stuck with it. I will start him against West Ham. That's a near certainty. I think, okay, it's a decent fixture again. Afterwards, doesn't start looking so good. And as I said, I may even take the decision, if he blanks against West Ham, to make an early move towards Visser. That then might block me off the third Arsenal player. So I'm aware of that. Adama Traore scored. Marco Silva spoke quite highly about him after the game, trying to get him into good positions. I acknowledge it because we always say that if you're looking at buying Adama Traore, you're probably going to the classic FPL overthink stage. And that's still how it would feel. I'd prefer to go with like Smith Rowe. But I guess now, after we get, what you got to think is after we get past this West Ham game, and then it's like it's Newcastle away, it's Forest away, Forest quite strong defensively, and then it's City away after that, then Villa. So you're coming into a tougher run. After the West Ham game, people will start thinking about selling their Fulham players.
Yep.
So if you're a Smith Rowe owner, if you're a Muniz owner, you might just want to be aware of that sort of thing. But I don't think it's certainly not a panic to come off before West Ham United at home. And Anthony Robinson owners will be delighted, right?
Indeed.
Another assist.
Yep.
Was he in the bonus again, was he? Anthony Robinson?
He did pick up 1 bonus, I think. Yes,
yeah.
he did.
And the other left back picked up 2.
No, just outside the bonus, sorry.
He wasn't in the bonus, Robinson. But still 5-pointer, right? You take that.
Yep.
Leif Davis was 7-pointer, wasn't he?
4-pointer, James.
Did he not get the assist?
Yellow card.
Was he not on 2 bonus, Leif Davis?
No. I'm talking about Robinson. Robinson was a 4-pointer.
4-pointer.
Not a 5-pointer. Yeah.
Leif Davis was a 7-pointer, right?
Leif Davis.
7-pointer.
Was a 7-pointer.
Thank you. Obviously, assist Delap's goal with the sort of assist we don't expect from him passing to someone on the halfway line. Well taken run from Liam Delap. Looked really lively. You could see the power in him looked fitter than what I'd seen and I did watch the Ipswich game at City back. Far more powerful and confident than he looked against the first 2 opponents. Might be something in that. I'd keep a watching brief on that. Ipswich's fixtures are about to become quite good. And he probably does stay in the team as the power with some of these talented players behind. Davis didn't take all the set plays at the weekend. It's important to say. And I have a concern for him. A few people were asking about him for wildcard this week, and those who've gone there will be absolutely delighted. And there's no reason you should have any fear here. I'm just not sure what the impact will be if Jack Clark gets in the team, because Clark is a little bit like Grealish. You'll give him the ball and he holds it and he'll carry for you. He's a good ball carrier. And I just wonder if that might restrict Davis in open play a little bit. Just something to factor in. And I think if I was to go and invest in Ipswich at the moment, I'd still be just go for Jacob Greaves as the 4.0 option, who's pretty locked and is a real danger from set plays. Decent point for Ipswich. I think with what they had after the first 2, it almost felt like this was game 1 for them. And a decent point.
Leicester 1, Aston Villa 2. Aston Villa obviously going 2-0 up, and then a late consolation for Leicester. I think the story here is Ollie Watkins again just had opportunities, doesn't look sharp. He's popped up with an assist again, so he's kind of he's almost like, okay, you can't be too bad.
That's fortuitous. Even I can say that.
Yeah, but you can't. You've got your 5 points. You can't be mad that it's a blank. But John Duran's come on and scored, and when I saw that and saw the goal, which was a great header.
Yes, it was.
I kind of think, is there any risk here? Like, Duran's committed to the season now with Villa. I say committed to the season. Of course, he could leave in January, but he feels like he's committed. Is there any risk here that he's bang on it and Watkins hasn't come back fit, and Watkins obviously going away with England again now. That he doesn't keep his place.
As in, what Watkins doesn't start against Everton?
Yeah, is there any risk here? Because
No, I think it's more.
Emery said that he came back from England with a niggle and an injury, and then before this game said that he's come back and he's back now and he's got rid of that niggle and he's up to 100%. But he's been subbed again at 60 minutes.
I think we might get to a stage where they might play together.
Duran, I like. I think he's the one. We bought a shitload of players in the summer at West Ham. He's the one that we should have just fucking got the deal done because he knows how to score goals.
He's beginning to look like if suddenly Villa sold Watkins next summer, that
Yep.
the replacement is there.
Yep.
Quite possibly. He's clearly in confident mood. He's on a bit of a streak. I presume he's probably going to go on international duty as well, Suj, which is worth bearing in
Colombia,
mind.
which is South America.
Exactly. So factor that in potentially.
I'm sure he's had a price rise already.
Look,
After Gameweek 1, I
Watkins,
think he had a price rise.
Watkins XG in what little over an hour was 0.7. So approaching expected goals of 1 if he gets towards the 90. And I just think, like I said, the biggest call for me in game week 4 will be what's happening with Brentford. I think Watkins will break that duck if he plays against that Everton backline as it stands. So I don't have huge concerns about him. It does amuse me that he's dropped in price last night. Now we're coming into Everton at home. But I also get it. There'll be people who've been on that path of, say, like a Watkins and Isak, and they're looking at Haaland going, that's enough now. And I understand that. But now really is the time to buy, I think.
Yep.
I wouldn't tell anyone not to buy Ollie Watkins. Everton at home, Wolves at home, Ipswich away, United at home, Fulham away, Bournemouth at home. Yeah, it's more
You've
likely.
got the triple up of Nedeljkovic, Rodgers, and Watkins. You're playing all of them, right, in game week 4?
Well, Nedeljkovic, no.
He didn't start, did he?
Because Bogard played at right back. And there was some quotes from Jacob Transwell of The Athletic, who's a Villa correspondent, had said it was that embargoed quotes, I think, where Emery had said we have been practicing with Bogard there as well. And I did see the quotes and I thought, all you're looking at as an insurance now in case something happens here to Nedeljkovic. And they went straight in, which is interesting. So Nedeljkovic looks like a duff pick as it stands.
Anyone buying now? You'd recommend Bogard, or you would
leave
not?
it. Just don't.
Just go to a different 4.0.
Nah, just don't. Yeah, just leave it be. Like, to be honest, Matty Cash probably back around about game week 6. So look, you could nick game week 4 and 5 potentially. I'd leave that be personally. I'd steer clear of it. If you want Villa at this moment, there is a case to say go Luca Dean.
Okay.
But Lee Jackson will be on Clash of Correspondence this week. And despite the fact the fixtures they've got coming up, I think his recommendation will be no Villa defensive. Okay. I really think that. You don't keep that many clean sheets. Think back to what we said in pre-season about Konsa. Konsa 4.5. Oh my God, they finished 4th last year. Okay, you got 92 points in 35 games last season. Like, there's not a lot in it. It's not like any of them are that powerful where you think, oh, they'll get 6 or 7 goals from set plays. They don't. You might get lucky and get 1. And I get that. You're looking at the next couple and you potentially want some coverage. I looked at it. That's why I went there, right? So if you're going now, Konsa, I think over Torres, purely just because if Tyrone Mings came back in, I think that's more likely to be with Konsa than Torres, but I don't think he will, by the way, for clarity. Konsa can also cover at right back as well. So ever so slight preference for me on Konsa over Pau Torres. I think Luca Dean with Ian Maatson sitting there and the Champions League about to start does actually feel like a disaster waiting to happen because he's first choice at the moment, but it might mean that Maatson plays one of them 2 home games, for example. Yep. So I just wouldn't want to go there. Villa's first Champions League game, I think importantly, is Young Boys away on the Tuesday. So that's kind of a kind opening fixture. You could say that there's an impact then to Watkins' minutes on the Saturday. I certainly take that in mind. My alternative, though, is probably Jota, and that's an expected minutes concern as well, right? Leon Bailey injured. Massive blow for people who went there. It possibly brings Jacob Ramsey to the table for a little bit of consideration. I know people seem to already be frustrated with Rodgers. He is the best 5 million in the game. Don't be surprised if he gets
5.1.
5.1, sorry. It might
He
be
is now.
5.2 by
Well,
the
some
next
people
one,
might not be able to afford
despite no
at
returns.
5.1.
The good effort that Watkins had where he went through one on one and Hermanson made the good save, it's from Rodgers winning the ball and playing him through. Like he's on the periphery. I think that return will come. That would still be the one to go to if you want to invest in a Villa midfield player. But I think Watkins is a captaincy contendership for game week 4 for idiots like me that don't have Haaland or Salah.
Yep. Let's go to Nottingham Forest 1, Wolves 1. Similar to the Ipswich Fulham game, if you look at it on paper, like an XG of 1.04 versus 0.74, 16 shots to 11 shots, one big chance, two big chances, 367 passes, 359 passes. Again, comes across as a very even game, 52% to 48% possession. Stats wise, they matched each other up, but with two early goals, you might have thought that it might have developed into maybe one team getting on top, and didn't quite work out like that. Ended up finishing 1-1.
Yeah, few takeaways on this. Firstly, on Forest, I feel like the biggest takeaway is what happened on Friday rather than Saturday.
Mm,
So Matt Sells presumably is now safe in goal if people do want to go down that route.
yep.
And I'm going to guess with no forward ball that Chris Wood will maintain favouritism up front at the moment. So I think those two players that really felt dodgy all the way through over the last few weeks, and admittedly, I know people wanted Forest for the first three. Those are probably safer to keep hold of. But with Liverpool away, Brighton away in 4 and 5, and Chelsea away in 7, this feels like a conversation perhaps for later now at this stage. But those who are on those two players shouldn't feel the necessity to have to sell, I don't think. I think you're probably safe at the moment from that perspective. For Wolves, obviously a little bit of switch in terms of what they did. This was more of a movement back to kind of a hybrid between the back three and the back four. If you look at Ray and Eight Nori's heat map from the weekend, Suj, that's the sort of one that's going to get people quite excited because of how high he was in terms of an average position. I think where I'm looking for Wolves investment, it would probably primarily be with Matthias Cunha, though, consistent as Bellegarde obviously scored a terrific goal here. Little bit surprised that Rodrigo Gomez has not been in the team the last few. I don't know if this is down to the more difficult fixture run that they're in at the moment. Wolves very much feels like something to come back and have a look around about game week 9 and 10 and just keep an eye on it. Sam Johnson went straight in goal, but Gary O'Neill didn't confirm that he'd be number one ongoing. Basically said, obviously, Jose Sarr had been linked with moves elsewhere and said it was a difficult week for him. So they decided to put Johnson straight in goal. It's worth saying, obviously, Saudi transfer window, I think, closes today. And I think there has been a little bit of interest in him from there. But O'Neill said his expectation and his will and want on this was that Sarr would be back in training this week and he and Johnson will compete for the number one shirt. I would think that as Johnson played at the weekend, that he'll keep the shirt for the time being now and take over as a new number one. But I don't think it's 100% though. I'd just throw that in as a caveat. Yerson Mosquera will keep playing at 4.0 if that's your thing, but I think it's something to come back and have a look at later on when those fixtures get better. Sounds like it was a fair result overall.
Do you think like James Ward-Prowse gets into the Forest team? The reason I asked that question, James, is because there'll be people on Gibbs White, for example, who takes a lot of the free kicks and
great point.
Set pieces. And there was I was flicking through some of the games on the old dodgy box, and there was Morgan Gibbs White had a free kick, and they cut away toward Prowse in the stands, and you're like, they're just that smart. They're going to be mine soon. I just don't know if Gibbs White loses a bit of appeal if he's going to lose some of the set pieces, because when JWP's on the pitch, he will take them.
I don't think immediately, actually. So obviously Elliot Anderson played really well. I know that they flagged him on Match of the Day and stuff as well. I know a few Forest fans saying that played really well at the weekend. I think Sangari gives that a little bit of better balance than what I wouldn't see Wood-Prowse coming in for Sangari and playing with Anderson. Probably more likely comes in, and they may do this, they may change the system and drop one of Elanga or Hudson-Odoi to fit Ward-Prowse in, particularly with the two fixtures they've got coming up. Liverpool away, Brighton away. So I think, to be honest, if you've gone with a Forest attacker, particularly, I think you're probably looking at moving it. Whereas if you invested in something defensively, you were probably always planning to rotate it this week. That would be my guess. So,
Yep.
I mean, not investing in new, but you use a great point to flag on James Ward-Prowse about you could nick from Gibbs White because Gibbs White is consistent. But I also think those who went with him probably were already thinking about moving now, I think. So I think there'll be sales.
Yep. West Ham 1, Manchester City 3, or West Ham 1, Erling Haaland 3. Comfy win in the end I wouldn't say comfy win in the end for Manchester City, because West Ham did have quite a lot of chances. I just think they always had another gear as well within them, that as Man City do. And from what we've seen in the first 3 weeks of Man City, they are bang on it this season as well. And some of the videos that I've seen circulating of Pep in training, like that guy, he needs to calm down. He's going to give himself some sort of heart attack on the training pitch, the way he's shouting and screaming at the players. I watched the first 3 minutes as a West Ham fan. You're like, wow, what's this high press, getting in their faces, playing in their half? And it's so annoying because you look at it and you're like, I like this. And then you look at the clock and you're like, oh shit, only 90 seconds have gone. Like, we can't do this for a whole game. It's like, yes, okay, fine, play on the front foot against City, but only 90 seconds have gone, and then as soon as they get the ball, they take control. You're on a hiding to nothing with City. You go and try and play in their faces, and they'll slow the game down and slow it down, keep possession, and then find the way through. You sit in deep, they'll find the way to unpick the lock. It's just impossible to know what is your game plan against City. What do you do? Because you can lose any which way. You've got to pick one and try it. And the general feeling and consensus from West Ham was we gave it a go, and particularly in the second half. We hit the post a couple of times, but a team with De Bruyne on the form that he's on and Haaland on the form he's on, what do you do? Like, how do you beat City? It's just so difficult. You've got to hope that everything goes your way and they fuck up somewhere and you get a little bit of luck as well. And then you can come out and you can maybe scrape something. But when Haaland and De Bruyne are on the form they're on, it's just so damn difficult, man. I think West Ham is really interesting. I think we'll end up this season routinely beating a lot of the teams that we'd expect to be below 8th, 9th in the table and maybe struggle against the top half teams. But we'll be bankable against some of the lower half table teams, just because we've got the firepower up there, and defensively we will be solid. Like, we're not playing City every week. I do think there's assets to be considered in that West Ham team, but Bowen's still Mr. Consistent, could have still attacking. And if you fancy a cheap defender, there's going to be a run from maybe 13, 14 that will be worth considering. But I think, we'll win some of the games you expect us to at home routinely, but we'll just struggle in some of the more difficult games while we adapt to Lopetegui's system.
You're right to say there's a great run for West Ham from game week 14 specifically. I also, however, think this run here,
the home games are interesting.
Up till game week 11. And to be honest, I only leave out 12 and 13 because it's Newcastle away and Arsenal at home. Does feel particularly tough. But I actually feel this period from now till game week 11 is quite good and a little bit hidden. I think the reason it's hidden is because you do play Chelsea, Tottenham and Manchester United over that period.
But Chelsea and Man United are at home. And so I think if you're going to want those teams, you want them at home, right? And then in between that, Ipswich at home. And then we've got Everton at home after Manchester United. So those two home games sandwiched in between are pretty decent.
I think the particular point with those three teams from the big 80s against Chelsea, United, Tottenham, you kind of know that they're all going to give you chances as it stands at the moment. Like, Chelsea aren't right yet defensively. United has been well documented. My team's well documented. Will give anybody a chance. You could have 20% of the ball against my team and might beat me. So there'll be opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, look, we beat Chelsea at home last year. We beat Spurs away last year. So read into that what you will. You know we're going to get a trophy at the end of those games because there are cup finals, aren't they? So you can't.
You said it.
You can't deny. I mean, listen, I'm waiting for you to have a trophy. You don't have any trophies at your place to give us, mate. Maybe go to Aldi and buy an Aldi cup. But I think we'll be up for those games. So that is something to take into consideration, jokes aside, that we will put an effort in. And attacking players is where you're looking over defensive players anyway.
Still Bowen worth the extra over the others?
I mean, he's getting better and better as a football player. He really is. He's just more direct, more rounded. He makes better decisions. He's using his body well. Yeah, I just think he's really in a positive space. He's got the armband, and the armband can be a problem for some people where you take the responsibility on. It feels like he's taking it in his stride. Definitely still Bowen at the moment for me.
I wouldn't mind betting that it'll be a brilliant differential over the next few weeks. I don't. He'll be a difficult one to pay for when you've got so many. Bumo's less, Eze's less. I get it completely. And
Yeah,
if you're
or you got
if
Diaz or
this
Jota
week
in and around.
you'd go and buy Eze, wouldn't you? As we'll probably speak about in a second. Like if you were to go at that value, and then you come into six, and you say, well, Bumo's fixture's better, and that's what I mean. I think West Ham is quite hidden. And I don't mind Jared Bowen as a differential. I think
Yep.
particularly over this period, the defensive ones, I think, yeah, he's still a comeback to. We don't think, by the way, we've mentioned Flapianski quite a bit. Ariola came off with a back problem. I think he probably will play in game week 4.
Let's stick an
I, I,
injection in
I,
there and
I
crack
would
him on.
imagine.
Yeah.
So if you're an Ariola owner, don't worry about it. If you're an
The
Ariola
thing is, he's
owner,
had back problems before. That's the only thing. But I think we'll know, right? I think it's one of those where we'll know if he is available or isn't. I don't think it'll be a wait and see.
yeah,
Plus, it's 2 weeks.
yes, I imagine Ariola will play, and I imagine those who've got Ariola might well have Flappy with it anyway, so probably aren't too bothered. But it's like 4 or 5 times now that's happened with Ariola coming off during a game.
Yeah. I don't know if it's that many, but it's definitely 2 or 3.
It feels like there's been a few.
It feels like a lot. I know.
So, someone will correct me. Someone put it in the comments or something. How many times Ariola has been subbed off since he's been at West Ham? I think it's at least 3. I think. For City,
City.
We won't talk about Haaland anymore. Go back to start the pod. A few bits. Kevin De Bruyne. Yeah.
Yeah, his points this year 3, 12, 1 could easily have been 15, 15, 15. I want him in my team. I don't know how I don't know how to get him in,
How
but I
has
want
he
him in my
walked out of
team.
that with only 1 point? My God.
Wow.
He was exceptional, and it will get overlooked because of Haaland. Bernardo Silva was fantastic as well, but from the fantasy element as well, like KDB getting a 1 pointer was one of them. You must have bashed your head against the wall if you went for him. You had him, but it'll probably come. No Phil Foden again. Through this must be some bad illness. So KDB would have to be the one if you want to go in around that value, and I do think that there'll be again a few sort of Saka owners who will look at Tottenham away, Man City away, and think, oh, don't like that. My advice would be stick with him because it will benefit you for game week 6. But particularly if, say, you're wildcarding in 6 and you're at that value, I think you are looking at KDB, aren't you? Because it is 2 home games.
Yep.
And the second one, okay, it's a big game, but you know what we all call him. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant performance. I genuinely felt he was becoming a problem for them last season, and I really feel the opposite about him right now. That's testament to him, testament to Guardiola. He's putting him in areas of the pitch that's making him quite difficult to pick up, and he's having a super impact. The 2 wide players have no interest to me from a fantasy perspective. It's going to continue to absolutely frustrate the life out of you. I can have a City player at 6.5, get someone from a different team. Rico Lewis. I, going into the weekend, was quite concerned. Chelsea away, we knew Walker wasn't up to fitness. Ipswich at home, you don't need to rush him in. I did have a suspicion that playing against the likes of Kudos, something may well change in terms of City's setup. I think the important message here is, and not to say that it will not change, but if Rico Lewis comes out of this team, City have to change how they are playing. And right now, they're playing quite well. So it could be that this with Rico Lewis continues. Now, my take would probably be that because of the next 3 fixtures, Brentford at home, good offensive players, and City are liable to concede a dumb goal in a fixture like that. Arsenal, and then Newcastle away, that I can just continue to watch this. If I get to the end of game week 6 and Rico Lewis is still playing regularly for Manchester City, I think that's got to be acted upon. And there's plenty you'll be listening or watching this and think that's got to be acted upon now. And there'll be those who are on, you're in a really good position. It could change at any time.
That's what's putting me off. It's that the nerves of Kyle Walker being there. We know what Kyle Walker is, club captain as well, isn't he? So,
but they're playing well.
They are. It's eye test, but it's like what you're seeing versus what you think instinctively Pep may do. And I don't want my headaches around rotation to be my Man City assets. It puts me
Well,
off. But like you, if we see 3 more fixtures and he plays and he's playing well, you kind of think, yeah, it is that time to transition Walker out the team and Lewis in.
the other thing is obviously Champions League starting up. Now,
Yep.
City got a pretty good draw. I think it's fair to say. They have Inter in their first game, but that's the Wednesday following playing Brentford on the Saturday, and they don't play Arsenal till the Sunday. So it's 4 days, 4 days. But we shouldn't overlook the prospect that Lewis at the moment would probably play against Inter Milan. So at some point there is going to be some form of rotation or something there. It's worth saying as well, for the Arsenal perspective, they play in Atalanta on the Thursday before they go to Manchester City in game week 5. So that's one of their tougher Champions League fixtures, and it's on the Thursday before they go to Manchester City in game week 5. Yeah, I'm really keen to just continue to monitor this Lewis situation. I think if I had someone defensively get injured in the break, I would possibly just chance it and just go there, I think, at this stage. So take a chance. I could completely get that anyone wildcarding at the moment would probably want to go there, and I'd probably agree with it. But don't take too many gambles in the rest of your team. If you put him in, you want 4. Okay, they're going to play every week as your other defenders. One 4.0, you know is going to play. Maybe another 4.5, you know is going to play, and then whatever you want with it. But he's getting to the stage now. We should take the chance. He's assisted Haaland's second goal. He should have scored himself in the first half. He should have scored against Ipswich the week before. I get it. He's looking stronger and stronger by the week. You know what that means? He probably won't play the next game.
Agreed. Let's go to the Sunday games. Chelsea won, Crystal Palace won, another 1-1, but this time on paper, James, it wasn't a fairly even game because Chelsea come out far higher on the XG, 2.37 versus just over half for Palace.
A few big chances, yeah.
5 in total, none for Crystal Palace, and like nearly 600 passes versus only 350 for Palace. You can tell that Chelsea have dominated. I'm struggling here with Chelsea, James. Like, I think attacking wise, they will score goals and create a lot of chances. I don't have room for Cole Palmer unless I sell Erling Haaland. I'm not going to do that. And I don't have room for Nicholas Jackson because I'd rather have Havertz or Watkins, or even Dominic Solanke when he becomes available, maybe. And so I'm looking at Chelsea thinking, how do I get one of their attacking players into my team? And it might have to be like a Madueke or a Neto. But then do I want them ahead of like my other 6.5s, or like over an Mbumo, or find a way to get the money to turn Smith Rowe into one of them? I don't know. I'm really struggling here of how to get a Chelsea attacker into my team, because I don't even think I want Neto or Madueke, to be honest with you. I think I want Palmer, and then if I had to, I'd take Jackson, and that'd be it.
Yeah, I think Jackson was the one player that my thinking on it, he was the one player last week who I had no intention of going anywhere near on wild card, that then became a serious consideration on Friday night, because the assumption all the way through before was that Chelsea would buy someone. Or Tony.
Tony,
even Friday
whoever.
morning, I would have got up that day and said, I think Tony ends this day as a Chelsea player. I had an inkling for that. And then there was the interest in Osimhen. So Jackson actually now is suddenly quite secure. And I'd considered going Jackson over Isak, actually. So Jackson, I'm keen to keep an eye on. I don't think it's going to be one for me, actually. But with each passing fixture, you're getting closer to Chelsea's tougher run. And actually, the next 2 I don't think stand out that much. Bournemouth away, West Ham away. Brighton at home is a debatable green fixture. I mean, it's probably not really the way they've started the season. Then sure, there's Forest at home. Then you've got City in a great run at that point. Arsenal's in a great run. So I think with Chelsea at the moment, it's probably keep what you got and don't buy anything else. It's probably like a quite straightforward way to answer it. I think defensively, I'd generally stay away. I think those who'd gambled on Madueke should stick with that at the moment. Those who are on Jackson, fine, but I probably wouldn't buy him new. And Cole Palmer, presumably, if you were desperate for, you've already done it. So leave it be at the moment, Suj. I mean, it's fairly straightforward, actually.
But it's a reluctant leave it be. Do you know what I mean? I think I'd still rather have one of their attackers.
Of course, but it's 2 away games now. And I wouldn't rush to it. I think it scored 1 goal in those 2 away games last season. I know the manager's different and all that, But reality is, so I want. I've just drawn 1-1 with Crystal Palace, Suj.
Mm.
And I realise a lot to do with that is Dean Henderson made some obviously very important saves. Um, but I was a bit flatter, I think, second half. Whatever. I've not seen a huge amount of the game, admittedly. Beautiful goal by Eze. And
Yep.
that's the player from the two teams you most want to go and buy. I was really kind of willing people, particularly on my deadline stream, were asking me about maybe selling him. Say, please don't do that because you are over this international break. If he does well this weekend, going to look at Leicester at home and go, I wish I hadn't done that.
Mhm.
And it's Man United at home, and it's an Everton that who knows by game week 6 might still be without Jared Brantwaite. I nearly put him in on the wild card, you know.
Do you know,
I'd looked at one of going like Eze instead of Bumo and then going Vissa rather than Munez. I'd looked at it.
we talked at the end of last season about stats and data and all these analytics models and what have you. And maybe to get better at this game, we need to embrace them a little bit more because I never use them. I stuck my team for FPL review, I think was the one.
Did
And
you?
yeah, on Friday, just to see what it came up with. And it came up with the best transfer for me for 3 weeks was Nkunku to Eze, and then second was Mbumo. And I went with
Yeah.
Mbumo because that was the original player that looking at review I wanted to go with because I looked at the fixture directly ahead of me. But then this week it would say go Mbumo to Eze because his fixture is there, and I can bank him point one by doing that.
I'm not sure it would tell you that, by the way.
Well, he's just
Like,
scored. It told
no,
me
but
that before the game week, and he's just scored.
no, I'm saying I don't think review would tell you now to go Bumo to Eze.
Yeah,
He
maybe
may
not because
recommend that, but
Mbumo
probably not your
scored.
most recommended transfer. I wouldn't
Yeah, I
expect.
don't know, to be honest. I don't. I'm not a expert user of it. Let's say, but yeah. So Eze is still good, and he's got a decent fixture now, isn't he? So
Yeah. Plus, at the moment, Mateta's not pulling up trees either, right? So I
no.
think Eze would be the one to go to if you want to invest in Palace. Defensively, I'd probably just stay away and let it settle at the moment. You obviously got Lacroix to come into the team. And they buy another defender as well, I think, maybe on
Um,
deadline day.
Lacroix and didn't they get Shalabar? They got Shalabar
Oh, of course, Trevor
from
Chalobah,
Chelsea.
obviously. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
which got
So
because originally Lacroix was it's not a cheap signing in 18, 20 million. You're thinking, right, there's your centre back pairing, and then Shalabar popped up, and I was
once
like, oh,
I don't
okay.
know a lot about Lacroix, but I know Rory had said to us on correspondent, he was like, "We're going to buy this player." It's like a certain
Yeah,
thing.
he
He's like,
played with Glasner at Wolfsburg, is what I've seen. Because I did look into it, thinking, okay, does that make Palace more secure? And if it does, then it does make any of their like I've got Munoz sitting there. So does having Lacroix there make Munoz more interesting for me as a hold
"What price
potentially
is
as well? Is it?
Chalobah?"
I would not
It's
know, James, but
4.4.
okay.
I'd keep an eye on that. He'll certainly
Yep.
be first choice. At some, he might not be straight away, but he will be at some point. I'd keep an eye on that. Actually, Munoz and Mitchell owners, if you've been on, now is not the time to sell with what's next. I'd be wherever you've got Palace, I'd be holding on to at the moment, and probably in most cases starting it in game week 4. That would include Mateta. Like if you've been on, don't sell now. Not with that fixture next, and even United and Everton afterwards. I'd be holding on at the moment. Although I probably wouldn't buy anything other than Eze at this moment. I think.
Let's talk about Newcastle 2, Spurs 1. I watched the first half of this game. It wasn't free. It was quite scrappy. Didn't think it was like the best entertaining games that I expected. Even you guys didn't really create the clinical chances that maybe sometimes when you're on your front foot, you were getting in attacking areas, don't get me wrong, but then play would break up and then it'd go back the other way and then Gordon would get there, but wouldn't quite find Isak. I didn't watch the second half, I must admit, but the first half didn't feel, if a lot of action, maybe low on quality is what it felt like. And I did think they
Uh,
scored. They scored. I wouldn't say against the run of play, but they weren't like dominating to go one up. I think it was a little bit like fairly even, and they managed to get on the score sheet.
no, it's an interesting one. I think the theme here is what I repeat here every week. Everybody is going to have chances against us, and you look at Newcastle's total XG in the end of 1.83. Now, obviously, Isak's XG for the one chance is absolutely massive, isn't it? So
Mm.
you're probably halving Newcastle's XG if you take that one chance away. But there is a repetitive theme, unfortunately, for Tottenham. We've had 35 shots, I think, in the 2 away games and 1 point to show for it, right? And we had more in this one than we had at Leicester. 1.26 xG from 20 shots is not great.
No, low quality chances.
It's only
Yeah.
two big chances. Yeah, it's low quality. There were only two of our chances that had a higher xG of more than 0.10, 0.10. So that said, so glass half full. I thought we were excellent. I thought we played so well. Newcastle is the sort of place I feel like nearly every football supporter will know you can just sink. And they had a couple of early ones that with the Harvey Barnes breakaway after the really good touch from Gordon, who played on the right hand side, it got the crowd up. Oh, every time they win the ball back, we're in potential danger here. We obviously went there with no centre forward. So despite Ange saying in pre-season that I won't play Kulusevski up front again, he did. And no Mickey van der Ven, which most of us knew Sunday morning. Just a point on this on
What
Ange.
happened to him?
So he extended his knee late in the game against Everton.
Right.
And was down for a little bit. Finished the game, it's fine, but it can be one of them. It's adrenaline, and you carry on. On Wednesday, it came out that he hadn't trained, but then on Friday, he never mentioned him. So
Right.
you think he's probably all right. It does sound like he might have travelled, so it's possible that Sunday morning just it wasn't right and stuff. But I have to say, it's not the first time that Ange we've had suspicions about a player. Ange hasn't mentioned them, and then they haven't played at the weekend.
Right.
It's just something to bear in mind, I think, for the future, because I think most people it'll be fine, and he obviously wasn't. I thought Radu Dragusin did quite well, but you're kind of on the back foot already, right? You're going to Newcastle. I was quite expectant. I'd said earlier in the week, I quite fancy us to win. Once that news on the Friday about no centre forward, I was like, mm-mm. And then by the time you see Mickey's not in the team, I think, we're getting beat now. It swings that much on the importance of the players. And I thought we played really well. I think most neutrals would go, geez, Tottenham played really well, particularly in that second half. I mean, when we equalised, it's just becoming an inevitability. The only question was, will we actually score? Because the domination and how we had them on the back foot was so intense. Like we've hit the bar, the attack continues. There's a shot saved, then we score. Great finish by Dan Burn, by the way. And I thought at that point we'll win the game. And it got to about 15 minutes to go, and we hadn't scored. And I said to my dad, "What will be here." And like, if we lose, take it on the chin and be really pleased with the way that we played. I think we played really well. That's one I can walk away from that, and I think the way we played, that's sustainable. Where we play like that most weeks, we're going to win games of football.
Mm-hmm.
And Newcastle on the reverse won't win too many playing that way. Now it's a setup. Si said this, FPL Bibs said this last night, and I retweeted it. It's two teams who know how to play each other well. And clearly, our Newcastle set up against Tottenham is not something for what you should expect to see going forward. But I have to say, I was obviously at the game in April, and I was at the game obviously yesterday as well. The vibe around Newcastle is not the same.
Okay.
It's not. The atmosphere yesterday was nothing like the atmosphere in April. It just wasn't. And I know they got themselves a couple ahead, but people remember I was adamant and said, no. Even pre-kickoff, the atmosphere felt very different. That was the best atmosphere I had last year, was Newcastle away. I don't think yesterday's will be the best atmosphere I experienced this season by any shot. That was not quite the same.
Do you know, I think there's a deflation from thinking, okay, we're the richest club in the world,
Not bought
to
anyone.
actually we're not about to do a Man City from 10, 15 years ago because we can't because of FFP. And that can only be a good thing because it means they're not going to try and break football and also stretch themselves to a point where bad things can happen that we've seen at many clubs. But they haven't been crazy. They've still bought some outstanding players. Like Tonali's going to get back into the team, no doubt, right? And
He was a game
Isak
changer
is
yesterday.
world class. And so, and even Gordon has been excellent for them. They have bought well, but they just haven't maybe bought crazy in the way that they had. We had expected, I should say.
They couldn't, quite frankly.
FFP.
They couldn't. And obviously they put their eggs in, it looks like, to getting Mark Gay. And it obviously didn't happen. And it wasn't, I mean, they didn't even go for an alternative, did they? Thought, well, they might get a defender in on loan or something. No, let it go. Fabian Schär obviously will be back for game week 4. Suspension will be over. I would not be investing anything in Newcastle at this stage. It's a couple of away games which are both very winnable in Wolves and Fulham, but they're traps. They're traps for games that could be hard work. Wolves have changed the system a little bit at the weekend against Forest. Fulham can be a tough game, and then they play City. So I think that moment with Newcastle now is probably gone to invest in new. That's not to say you should definitively sell. I think Isak owners is fine to keep. That's probably what I'm going to be doing. If you're on Lewis Hall, it feels like time to move. It's obviously 2 games in a row now that he's not started. And that's not to say that he won't come back in the team with Fabian Schär back, by the way. But I suspect that Kelly will probably play left back again at Wolves in game week 4. You just wouldn't be buying new. I'd keep a strong close watch on Harvey Barnes, because if he's going to play on the left regularly and Gordon's going to play on the right, as per yesterday, I think Barnes might become a better asset than Gordon. I can foresee that. But also Harvey Barnes needs to keep himself fit properly for a while. So I think Newcastle's now in a watching brief. I'm not desperate to sell Isak. I think that's fine. He was a pick for me at the start anyway, based on long-term consistency of good enough against any opponent at any time. And he'll clearly be their talisman. I'm convinced of that. But I wouldn't be investing in him in new. For Spurs,
only thing with Isak is that because of Watkins' price drop, 0.4, there might be people that have lost money here, there, everywhere. I think I might sacrifice Isak to get Watkins while I can, because if Watkins does well, he'll build
I get that.
some value for me.
Would I move Isak to Watkins? Yes, probably. Yeah. The similar value. Yes, I probably would do that.
It wouldn't be for the season, but it would be for the short term for sure.
Yeah, I could completely get that. If you want to go Villa for the next 4 or 5 and then come back to Isak, I think you probably wouldn't go back for quite a while. Probably not till sort of game week 11ish if you did sell Isak. So yeah, I think it'd probably be a while till we see new investment in Newcastle, because changing fixtures is kind of beginning. For Tottenham, from an FPL perspective, Pedro, great. I don't know how many shots he had yesterday. You remember 5 shots yesterday?
A lot. It just did feel like he was popping up at the edge of the box. Like quality-wise, not great, but just to be in those positions was good.
Yeah, shots on target 1, shots off target 2, shot blocks 3, hit the woodwork once. All that was basically a deflected cross. So 6 efforts on goal, Pedro Porro. So yeah, I there's nothing else I like at that 5.5 value. I think it's a City player, and there's too many question marks there at that point, and you'd probably drop to Lewis anyway. I could get people wanting to look at that sort of thing now, like Porro to Lewis. I'm not going to at this stage. I'd probably just play Pedro against Arsenal. I think it's just because of that. Have a shot and score at any time, basically. He gets so involved, so far forward. I think he'll prove to be a great asset during the season. The rest of Tottenham is worth avoiding. If you are on anything like Johnson or Kulusevski, that's now massively in sell zone now for me. It should have been another assist technically for James Maddison, because obviously Johnson on the rebound, if it had gone straight in, Maddison would have got it. The problem with Madders is I don't see the goals in him. I'm sure, he will tick over with like assists and stuff like that. I don't think he's going to score many.
No.
So I think, again, you'd be in sell zone at the moment. Sonny, he's a more difficult one to sell, obviously, at any point. But again, I think my advice into this week would have been, if you got Son, move to Palmer, for example. And it'd probably still be the same at this moment as well. The Tottenham asset that's going to be the most interesting offensively when he's back fit is Dominic Solanke.
Of course, for sure.
And not just from fantasy perspective, but also for the team, because I think if he played yesterday, there's every chance we'd have won.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about Manchester United 0, Liverpool 3. Liverpool comfortable winners in the end. I think with Manchester United, do you know what it felt like for me? When you see like a baby deer is born, and they come out and they struggle to walk because they haven't quite figured out how to use their legs. What I mean by that is, I thought De Ligt, considering it's his first start, actually he looked like he is a player. And when Garte comes in to take Casemiro's place, because Casemiro now really does look 300 years old, alongside Mainu, and you've got Martinez there, and you've got Matsuraoui and stuff. I think that there is a team building there that will be able to walk and actually will be all right in a few weeks when they get themselves sorted. but they were just at that point where they hadn't quite, they've got the pieces there now slowly and surely, but they just hadn't quite figured out how they were going to play. And those mistakes, obviously, from Casemiro against a team like Liverpool will kill you. It was a bit painful. I don't think it was as bad as 3-0 for Manchester United in terms of, it's obviously you don't want to lose to Liverpool at Old Trafford like that. But I don't think I'm taking into that Manchester United are awful and gonna struggle, because I think when De Ligt and Martinez do build up a bit of a relationship and Ugarte gets in and stuff, I think they will actually be all right. Doesn't mean I'm going to go and buy any of their assets. But yeah, to make mistakes like that and then to end up losing to Liverpool is not great. And Liverpool look ruthless, don't get me wrong. But I don't think it was as bad for Manchester United as maybe some people might make out, that, you know what, it's disaster time for them. Because losing late against Brighton last week, losing this game, you could look at it and say, right, okay, this is not good. And obviously it was a late winner against Fulham as well in Gameweek 1, scraping through by the skin of their teeth. I'm not buying into Manchester United are screwed.
I am.
Nah, I think they just need to get their first team fit and ready, playing together. You can't judge a team when it hasn't played together.
So what's to come into this? Just Ugarte?
Yeah, but it's not just to come into the team; it's to play together consistently for some time. I remember you've almost got a fresh back four, right? Where's Luke Shaw as well? Like
Yeah,
Dallow's a right back
think,
playing left back.
Yeah, he
So
probably
then you've
would be
got
Dalot
Martinez.
back to right back.
No, I think Matsurahi plays ahead of Dalot, surely.
No.
You don't think so?
No, not in my opinion, no.
It's close that, I mean, they bought Matsurahi for a reason, I think. The whole point of selling Wan-Bissaka was
because Luke Shaw can't keep himself fit. And technically, they have another left back in Tyrell Malacia, another player who can't get fit, right?
I just think that once they get their team together, because I think Mainu and Ugarte as a two holding midfield, that's good players there, mate, with talent and ability. Martinez and De Ligt is two good centre backs that suddenly gives you a foundation that you can feel a little bit more confident in. I think they've got Garnacho, Bruno, Haaland, and then whoever they want to play it on the left. I don't think that's a bad team, James. Yeah. If you had Onana, Shaw, De Ligt, Martinez, Dalot, Mainu, Ugarte, Bruno in front of them, right Garnacho, Haaland up top, and who are you going to play left?
I agree. I agree.
I don't think it's a bad team. I think they'll be all right. But
I agree.
It's going to take a little bit of time.
I think very soon we'll be looking at Manchester United assets for FPL quite quickly. Like I really do.
That's my point. I don't think that's why I'm not looking at it saying like, okay, Manchester United panic here. It's going to get better.
Yeah, with a different manager. Yeah, I think we spoke about this on Clash of Correspondence last week with Gary Robinson and Dan Lord. And what we said was, because of the defeat at Brighton, not the man of it, and they were unlucky at Brighton. I think most of us could say that. They're easy on it, Xerxes' knee gets out of the way, maybe they win the game. Fine. But we said that obviously if United lost, the discourse would suddenly be, it's 3 points from the first 3 games. What does it mean? Because we kind of all felt that Ten Hag would get sacked, right? They won the FA Cup final and they obviously couldn't find what they wanted. It's fairly clear they was looking for another manager. They couldn't find what they wanted, and because they'd won the cup final, obviously decided to give him more time. Feels inevitable to me that at some point here there'll be a breakaway. Because on what I see yesterday, that's great. You are right. United do have great players, mate. But this is not working. And I don't think it's going to. Because when it works for them, it's because the individualism and the quality within players like Bruno Fernandes, Alejandro Garnacho, etc. I don't think this team with the same manager will finish top 4 in this league. Don't think it can. In fact, I don't think it finishes top 5. They're the ones, if you said to me, any single week, if you said to me right now, play one of the other teams in the top 8, yeah, I'll play Manchester United 38 times, please.
Yeah, I don't mind that as well. But, and also take Gary, I think Gary Neville made the point quite well after the game that, look, Bayern Munich were trying to get a new manager. It wasn't easy, right? Even Chelsea were in the market for a new manager. And so if Manchester United couldn't get the manager they wanted, best option was to stick with Ten Hag rather than get another duffer and then have to move it on again and then look stupid again. And they also had a lot of change in the boardroom level. with
We also know with Gary Neville that
managers.
as a mouthpiece as he feels like he is never going to come out no matter what. If Manchester United lost
Yeah, I
10-0
get that.
yesterday, he's not going to say sack the manager. He's never going to do it. He said that
No.
himself previously.
Yeah, I get that, but it's a fair point. If don't replace, there's no point of replacing Ten Hag with another fourth choice or fifth choice. I think that the deciding factor will be, is the right manager that they want available, and when that right manager is and decides that they're happy to come to Manchester United, maybe there will be a change. But
I can't sum this up any clearer than this in terms of how I feel about it. And then not sacking him this week or anything like that. And I get that. I am looking at Tottenham going there in game week 6, and I'm thinking, please don't change manager before we go there. That's how I feel. And I just think that speaks volume. Forget everything. Forget fantasy. Forget that. Just me as a supporter, I'm thinking, we're playing Manchester United in a couple of weeks. I hope they haven't changed manager before then.
yeah, I'm not there. I think they can find a way to win, but I think they do need to get their squad back to where it needs to be.
Everyone's missing players. Man City
Yeah,
playing
yeah.
without
Don't get me
Rodri
wrong.
and Foden at the
Loads of
moment,
people
mate.
that have bought, yeah, but you can't compare because just the quality and depth there is awful, and that will hurt. I'm not. I just don't think it's panic stations for Manchester United though. I can see them looking to make a managerial change. I don't know if they will quickly. Liverpool, on the other hand, had a very difficult manager transition because following Klopp was never going to be easy after the success that he had and the love that he had from the fans. Slot's making it look easy at the moment, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's coming across really well. Um, One of the things that struck me, obviously, in the appointment, you start researching it. And I always say this about the Liverpool and the Manchester United jobs. And this also, I think, doesn't help Ten Hag. I think you need to show a real strong personality. And that's how it presents itself to the media as well. He already looks like the sort of guy who's going to command himself, a little bit like Ange, right? In the press comments,
Well,
I'm
do you
I'm
know
the
that was
dominator of this room.
the analogy is different because you are coming from a low point where Ange could only be better, but he won you in the first few weeks of the season very easily. And this is what I feel like Slot has. He's come from a difficult situation. It's going to be difficult as well for different reasons.
Yeah.
And he's won them very early. And so
Yeah.
now he's got himself quite a bit of grace period very quickly, which is going to only help him because he can operate freely. And Liverpool
Yeah.
do look good. Let's not beat around the bush. I mean,
They've also not
Gravenberch,
been tested.
Szoboszlai. Yeah, true.
Like, you can't look at United yesterday and say,
Well,
oh,
you'd
that was
almost go so far as to say the first game of the season against Ipswich first half, they were tested and then they came out all guns in the second
yes,
half
true.
and really did push them away.
True. But based on United's performance yesterday, if I'd said to you, like, pre-game, this is how United will play, you go, yeah, Liverpool win easy, right? We'd have all said that. And I get Liverpool have had problems at Old Trafford in the last couple of years, and primarily, actually, in fairness, because of Eric Ten Hag's tactics, particularly in the game week 3 fixture a couple of years ago as well. So yeah, look, Slot started really well.
And to be fair, I expected more from United because of Clash of the Correspondents last week. Listening to it, I don't really have the statistical memory that you guys do, but thinking about it, okay, they have had a difficult time at Old Trafford, haven't they?
Yeah, but as Gary even
They
pointed
didn't
out
yesterday.
himself, Liverpool could have won the 2 games at Old Trafford last year. The first time 2 years ago, yeah, United did play really, really well. For Liverpool, the 11 looks settled. Now, again, they're going to have Champions League fixtures coming up soon as well. And they go to Milan in between the 2 games in game weeks 4. It's Nottingham Forest at home, and game week 5, Bournemouth at home. And go to Milan on the Wednesday before the Bournemouth at home. And a lot of people obviously going to captain Mo in game week 5. That with Haaland playing Arsenal, I think if you've got both, you will be really tempted to go with Mo Salah. That's worth bearing in mind. It's also worth bearing in mind for someone like me with Jota, that clearly there could be some rotation there. And possibly even for the likes of Robertson and Trent as well. Definitely could be when you got Chimikas, Gomez coming back to training. Conor Bradley keeps coming on for Trent every game. The one benefit of that is with Conor Bradley coming on for Trent every game, I probably only need the 75 minutes for me clean sheet. I don't mind if Liverpool conceding late on.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a little bit of a
Yeah.
benefit in this.
As long as it's over 60, who cares?
And Trent, again, he's obviously had this loud goal here as well.
Yeah.
That's coming. If I go into game week 4, this is getting more what James, just get Haaland and Salah. I hear you all. But if I'm concerned about Watkins or Jota going into game week 4, I might just stick the armband on Trent, against Forest at home. I feel like that's coming. Luis Diaz has caused me a bit of a problem now because his outperformance versus Jota in terms of returns means there's going to be people going Jota to Diaz now.
Well, there
Um,
are, because Diaz is, well, I don't say they're going to Diaz from Jota, but Diaz is already up to 7.6. So if you haven't got the
it'll,
0.1 in the bank,
it'll keep going. Mo Salah, I think he's probably looking as good as I've ever seen him. He looks, I don't know if it's the haircut or something, but it looks like he's grown up. Like he's become like a leader in
physicality.
the. I don't know if it's just the hair's gone or whatever it is, but it looks like he's grown up. He looks as great physically as always does. He does. You don't look at him, oh, he's 32 or anything. It's just an absolute bastion of a footballer. He's so bang on it at the moment. And I think returns will continue to come for him over the next couple. If people wanted to take Haaland on with Salah in game week 4, like I could understand that. I think Haaland would still be the best choice of the two. But he looks absolutely on it at the moment. I'm lucky to get away with him only getting 17 points yesterday, I think.
Yeah, brutal. Brutal, brutal. Good, good, good. There's a wrap of the games for you, listeners. Hope you enjoyed that. We will cover off a couple of questions, James, because we've got a little bit of time. But before we do you want to tell the listeners what we've got for the first half of the international break, the first week of it?
Yeah, on Clash of Correspondence tomorrow, I'd be asking Johnny Pringle what he would advise for people who don't have Erling Haaland in their FPL team. It's City against Brentford with Johnny Pringle and Tom Med, Clash of Correspondence. Clayton and James show Wednesday, another COTC Thursday, Villa versus Everton with Lee Jackson, Sean Norton. I'll be streaming on Friday. Haven't decided the time yet. I have, but I can't remember what I put, 12 or 2. Patreon content this week. If you want the additional podcasts, our Q&A today. Tomorrow, UCL Fantasy, first look at these fixtures. Wednesday, Tottenham, myself and you. Thursday, Money in Football on transfer spends. Kind of more of an analysis of like the money that's actually been spent and what we can read from that. And I'll be doing Being Dad on Friday as well, ahead of Harry going into year 1 at school. If you want to support the show, it's www.patreon.com/Planet FPL. Do it because you want the additional content or because you want to support the show and keep the lights on.
Exactly that, James. We've had so many new people join Patreon this year, so grateful to everybody that has. If you want to test it out, look, it's no commitment. It's a rolling monthly Slack community to engage with all of the other patrons. A really good place for you to ask fans of other teams about FPL strategy or just general chit chat about loads of other stuff as well. The prize leagues, you can win. It's easy enough. Well, I say if your name is who usually always wins the advanced tier. Isn't it always Callan who does well and wins
No,
back
he won it once.
Did he only win it once? I feel like Callan had won more than once.
Nah, no one's won it twice.
Prize leagues and additional James's fixture planning spreadsheet and all of the shows that James mentioned. Come and check it out if you want to support the show. If not, if you like the free content, it's perfectly good as well. Just make sure you give it a like or a thumbs up or a review or leave a comment in the YouTube video, whatever all of the other podcasters and YouTubers get you to do. Do the same for us. Right, James, I'm going to ask you 2 questions to wrap this show from the questions that we've had in on Twitter. And before I do, it's 12 o'clock, you said, for your stream on Friday. Just had a cheeky
mate.
little look.
Thanks, mate. What's question 1? Why have you not got Haaland? And question 2, why have you not got Salah?
Plenty of people with swear words and Haaland in their questions this week, mate. Who's the best defender under 5 million for the next 2 game weeks? It's coming in from Ashish.
Under 5. If you just said 5, I'd have arguably said Canate. Under 5.
5 or under, I feel like.
Lewis Dunk.
Do you think Canate stays in ahead of Quanta?
Yeah. But Canate is not going to be able to play 3 times a week regularly. So, like, for example, you might really want to play Canate in Milan. So it might be like Quanta plays against Bournemouth in game week 5. I could see that sort of thing happening. I think Lewis Dunk. Ipswich at home, Forest at home. Forest particularly with a weakness from set plays. I think with the fixtures that Ipswich have had so far, we probably don't know if there's a weakness there. I don't think there is, by the way, particularly with Greaves obviously quite dominant in the air. But I think Lewis Dunk, those 2 fixtures, definitely plays at the moment. That would be the one rather than a Konsa. I think, more Lewis Dunk just for the next 2.
And Martin Salin says 3 games played now. How many answers do we have on teams and players, or is it still too early to call? I'd say it's probably a little bit early just because there's a lot of new signings and transfer deadline day that haven't been integrated in. Yeah, and that's the biggest game changer. There was a lot of activity towards the end of the window. Things like obviously like Reece Nelson popped up at Fulham, didn't he?
Yeah.
And didn't Nketiah get over the line at Palace? He did,
Yeah.
didn't he?
Yeah.
So does that mean he comes in ahead of Mateta? Does that mean Mateta's not interesting anymore? There are a lot of players that moved on the final day that could make others more interesting. So I think there's still a few weeks to go before it really settles down. But a lot of, like Pep said it after his game against us, right? It's like pre-season's done now. He goes, we had the cup and the three games before the international
Did he call
break
it
where
pre-season?
He said we're only playing once a week. He goes, now the real season starts where we're playing twice a week every week. So he kind of looked at it as like this is a warm-up period up to the international break because we're only playing one game a week. He goes, now the real business starts because we've got to play twice a week. It's exactly what he said, and I think that's going to have much more of an impact now. So I think it's still a little bit early to figure out. Like Villa, for example, they rotated heavily in the Conference League. You can't see them doing that when Bayern Munich come to Villa Park. They're going to want to give it a go, aren't they?
It feels like a really couple of big weeks. I think particularly for Arsenal. Actually,
Raheem Sterling and stuff we've got to talk about still.
yeah. I mean, to be honest, it wouldn't blow my mind if Sterling started for Arsenal at Tottenham in
He's a
game
good
week 4.
player. That's a good signing.
Yeah, I mean, he could play through the middle. He could play wide. I think it's a big couple of weeks for Arsenal. Obviously, goes without saying with the Tottenham away game and the Man City away game. If they did lose them both, they probably would be in a position where they'd be 8 points behind Man City. And I do realise there'd be 33 games to go, but you'd like start looking at that distance to City. So I was discussing this with my dad yesterday. It's like, Dad, with 5 points behind Man City, like it's finished. You're not finishing first. You end up 8 points behind them. And then City start coming into good fixtures, and Arsenal would still have some more difficult ones to go. Like they've got Liverpool, Newcastle, and Chelsea in a row, 9 to 11. My comment was always, I felt that if Arsenal were top of the league come game week 12, that they would probably go and win the league this year. There's a danger that it goes the other way and suddenly like, shit, 12 points behind or something. And it's not like it's irretrievable, but it would feel irretrievable, I think, against Manchester City, particularly if at the same time, Liverpool keep winning and then City are like, oh shit, eyes on the prize because Liverpool keep winning as well. You must want City to take their eyes off the ball. And I think with their Champions League draw and stuff, they probably won't. So it's a real big couple of weeks for Arsenal. And listen, Arsenal can beat my team and they're capable of winning at the Etihad, so it could go completely the other way. But if Arsenal lose both, it quickly will look quite difficult for them this season.
Good. Listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you're going to enjoy this little bit of a breather in the international break. We'll be back at you with a whole bunch of content this week. But look after yourselves. Stay safe. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Play it your way, not James's way. Be nice to each other. Cue music, please. Man child.